Hello and welcome to the Blessings in the Streets podcast. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and in studio with me this evening is a phenomenal woman that I had the pleasure of connecting with just recently. She is a best-selling author of the book I Broke Out of Prison. She is a actress, filmmaker, mentor, speaker, evangelist, just all around hardworking woman trying to pour in the lives of others. But most importantly, she's a woman of God. And she has graced us with with her presence this evening by taking time out of her very busy schedule with the hopes of inspiring and encouraging and uplifting us by sharing a little bit of her story, specifically focusing in on what it means to face adversity and being able to overcome those moments of adversity without allowing it to overtake you and take you out. Because there is a way, there is a path brought forth that's made available to us if we just know who to connect with and how to make that possible. And she's going to share all of that with us this evening. So it is my privilege and honor, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce to you Miss Raittia Rogers. Raittia, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So before we jump into our segments, I do want to give you an opportunity to kind of give the audience a little intro of yourself, who you are, where you're from, what do you do, kind of give them a taste of who is Raittia Rogers.
Well, you guys, thank you for tuning in. I am Raittia Rogers. I'm glad to be here on this evening. I love to do interviews and pour back and give back into different people's lives around the world. So I am born and raised from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I did come from a not so good upbringing in my family. That's not to say that my family is not forgiven. That is not to say that I do not love my family. I have to say that a lot of people get me wrong because I've written a book about my true life story, and some people take offensive, but I have to continue to talk and share my testimony, whether, family members or old friends like me or not. This is not actually me. It's God is behind this. So I'm just doing as I'm led. So, yeah. So as I was saying, I did come from a not so good upbringing family, which actually, pushed me out there as a youngster. Am I answering the question?
Oh yeah, you're good. I mean, we're going to go into tell you how you were how you coming up. I just wanted to like again let the audience get a taste of a little bit about yourself. But since we're venturing off into that, let's just jump right on in. We don't have to hold them back anymore any longer. So, Ratia, you started to begin to speak to us about what it was like for you coming up, and so I am interested in, and I'm sure my listeners are going to be interested as well. If you would kind of go into a little bit of detail as to exactly what was it like for you coming up, any fond memories that you have about coming up, as well as any particular challenges that you would like to share about that, just to give us a foundational basis of where your story begins.
Absolutely. So that my foundational basis of where I came from, on where where things happen to me, when I was a youngster, is where I'm from, Tulsa, Oklahoma. So I went through a lot coming up, watching different family members, friends get out there and do things. And so, like I tell people, when you're young, and you're out there and you see things that are being done, you get adopted into that type of atmosphere, that your type of community of whatever, if it's bad going on or if it's good going on, people tend to gravitate towards that. And that's what I did when I was a young girl. And so by me doing that, I got into gang affiliation. I had a lot of fights. Girls would always bother me first, and I would let them know, look here, you messing with the wrong one. Growing up, coming up in school, and so I had a lot of fights. I got suspended a lot. Beat up a lot of girls. To the fact so much to where the last fight that I had, I couldn't come back no more due to the severity of the fight. They told me I couldn't come back to that school there, and so I was in and out of different street schools, and trying to find myself growing up. My dad had went out and committed crime. They locked my dad up, for robbery. So he wasn't in the picture. My mom is trying her best to raise her kids. So I turned out to be, like the baddest one out of my mom's kids, going through so much. It touched me so bad, that my dad wasn't there, and I would, think of him and cry for him and play a certain song that would remind me of my dad and just let it all out and cry and all of that. Going through so much hurt and pain growing up, got into theft, robbery, doing different burglaries, gang affiliation, selling dope, crack cocaine, marijuana, teen pregnancy by an older guy, different things, rape, homeless. I lived in the girls' group home. I lived in the shelters, the Madonna House, the Tulsa Day Center, different things. A lot of different things did happen to me, which shaped me into who I was. So that's why it pushed me out there due to my community and a not so good upbringing for me to even get out there to do those things, because that's where I found the love at, from the other people that was out committing crime. And so we had something in common, as long as we showed, had each other's back and showed each other love. That was all I was, looking for as a youngster, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, 16 years old. After I had a baby at 15, my probation officer had got me an apartment. And so, I mean, there's a lot to share, a lot to talk about. And woo, I'll
Mm.
turn it back over to you for a second.
Wow. Well, I want to first start off
Hmm.
with saying I appreciate your transparency and sharing what you're sharing. I mean, clearly you had a roller coaster ride, and that's putting it lightly. Of all the experiences that you had to go through coming up as a young girl, I think the things that stood out to me first and foremost, right offhand, was you spoke about the pain that you experienced not having your father around. And, as a father of a daughter myself, somebody who's very close to my daughter, can't imagine life without her. To hear a woman speak about the importance of her father being around, and how that could have even been a difference maker in maybe certain decisions or choices that you made. And perhaps, just can kind of explain to a certain degree why you were acting out as you were, because you were hurting, and understandably so. And so, first off, to any dads that are tuning in to this episode, even if things don't work out with moms or, with the mom or what have you, you got to understand that, your children still matter. They still belong to you. You still got to stay connected. And especially there's a certain kind of relationship between that dad and daughter that's just undeniable. That's just it's its own unique, special type of bond that's there. Don't miss out on that opportunity, and understand the negative implications that could potentially arise just because your presence is not there. Um, and then, of course, just as you spoke about, just the environment that you're around. That can be very impactful to us, sometimes in a good way, but other times in a bad way. So again, a lot of times you tend to gravitate towards what you see, what you experience, what you're around. But most of what I've heard from what you just spoke of so far, I heard more pain inside of you than anything. I don't see a bad child. I know you got suspended and things like that. I don't see a bad person. I just see a hurting person. And we have a lot of hurting people in our world, even at young ages, as what you were speaking of going through the things that you went through, which is why it's so important. And I know we're going to get into this, why it's so important about having God in your life, because he is a huge difference maker when the pain is bigger than us, when that weight and that burden is much more heavier than what we can carry. You have to have a source that exceeds over and beyond what we in our human condition can absorb, because to ask anybody to take that on and be able to process it all and be okay is just really an unrealistic expectation. So again, appreciate your transparency and what you've shared so far with that. And with that said, Ratia, as we go through our, childhood, and of course, ultimately we venture off into adulthood, those experiences more broader in terms of, what we're exposed to and the like. But as I'm sure you are aware, and you, of course, started to experience some of this as a young child, there's a series of storms that are going to cross your path. And every now and then, those storms, while they may be mild in some instances, every now and then you live long enough, you're going to get hit with a storm or two or more that when it hits different. It's something that becomes hard to process, hard to rationalize, so much so that you might get to a point where you actually say to yourself, how am I going to get through this? Even if you're normally good at handling the stresses of life, every now and then we get hit with a storm that's just way too much for us to navigate through, and we don't see a way out. We feel like there's no coming back from this. So with that said, if you would, tell us about a time where you felt just like that this was a storm that I didn't see a way out. I didn't know how I was going to get up out of this situation, this circumstance. again, God allowed you to be here today. So we're trusting that He had navigated you through it. But maybe at that time it didn't feel like that. So if you would kind of share with us a time in your life where you felt exactly like that, and what was ultimately the turning point when you basically kind of saw some light at the end of the tunnel as you were coming up out of that particular storm.
Oh, absolutely. As I said, the things I went through growing up. And again, I love my family. I love my old friends. This is just my true life story, and I'm going to continue to go forward with it. And so, yes, I found myself. When my back was up against the wall. I was in jail, in and out of juvenile, in and out of jail. And it was like the fifth time my back was up against the wall. No one was there. And so I was in jail. And so my time came where I just couldn't take it no more. My life flashed before my eyes, and I surrendered to God, and I accepted Jesus Christ to come inside of me and save me, facing a whole lot. I mean, way more than what I just said. It's all in my book. I broke out of prison. And, that was my turning point. I received a miracle in my life at 21 years old. So, and that's how my life began to change, coming from everything that I talked about, gang affiliation, selling drugs, ripping and running the streets. I've done things with my body, with men for money. There's a ton of things. And at 21 years old, it was my time to change. It was my time to change for the better and find out that the things I've been doing is really not me. So, how I got that revelation was through God, because after I received my miracle at 21 years old, this is me. This is my prison mug shot right here. Raittia Rogers at 21 years old in jail. So, I God showed me the way. I got into the Bible. I figured out that I'm a difference maker, and so I found out about prayer in the Bible. um Everything that I need, I had the tools uh in a Bible. I had the tools in a Bible, and I really hid that word down in my heart. And so one thing about me now, if I was big and bold and bad in my young days, out committing crime, crazy, didn't care, would fight anybody that would try to come up against me first, I never back down. So I'm saying this to say, if I did that then, so now I can see why God, through the storms and trials and difficulties of life, God has made me a very strong person, a very strong woman of God, because that's just who He made me on the inside of me. I faced a lot. What pushed me into becoming a very strong person is because of my upbringing, me getting it in and out of trouble, juvenile jail, prison time, and my back is up against the wall. My life flashed before my eyes. I received this miracle from God. And during that time, it was just me and God. I found a couple of sister Christian friends to talk to, talk about the Bible, pray, lift up people in prayer. People begin to find out who I was really quick, because I wasn't fakey and shaky. I wasn't playing no games. So all the other inmates, a lot of the other inmates would actually come up to me while I was locked up in prison asking. They called me Sister Tia. Tia is my name. Ratia, Tia, you get it, nickname. So they say, Sister Tia, can you pray for me?
Mm,
They need canteen, commissary, a visit. There's something's wrong with their son, their daughter, da 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 da. And so I would always pray. And I got into the word so much, God would begin to speak to my heart on memorizing different scriptures for me to quote them back on up to God, to remind God of His word. Look here, this is what you said in your word in the Bible.
mhm,
So I began to figure out, God, a lot about God, and find out I'm not, that's not me going around committing criminal activity due to the way I was raised up. Like, that's really not me. What's deep inside of me is what my mom prayed for. She still say this till today. I prayed for you, my baby, my pretty baby. My mom always say that to me. Our parents has a certain way of talking to, there's certain kids, and that's just what my mom says to me. She calls me that all the time and says, I prayed for you. She even say that in front of the other ones. And I'm like, why are you saying that? Don't. But anyway,
Hmm.
that's our mom. That's how she does her thing. But I'm so grateful. Is what I'm trying to say. I am a answered prayer. I'm an answered prayer. My mom prayed for me. So it took, um, it took a lot of hell and high water for me to find out who I really am. And so, yeah, it just began from there at 21 years old, y'all. This is my book. I broke out of prison, best-selling author. Just thank God for that. And so I began to just each and every day, seek out God, seek out God. One time, somebody did something in a pod. I think they stole out of the stole some food or something like that from the kitchen or something. Something happened. It's in my book. I got to go back and sit down and read my book, y'all. So something happened, and they locked us down. They locked us down. Well, we were already locked down. So they locked us down again where we couldn't come out of the jail cells. And so during this time, I'm reading and figuring out God, figuring out the Bible says, judge not and you'll be not judged. And if you lay hands on yourself and something, I don't know, something was going on by my stomach area. There was some pain or something. And so God just spoke to me and told me to lay hands and pray. And so ever since 21 years old, all the way to now, that pain haven't came back. The pain left. It eradicated. I just thank God. Also, God taught me on how to fast. And so
Mm,
I went on a fast and I skipped the meal and I went on a fast. And one time I remember God sent an angel. There was an angel in that jail cell, and I believe it was sent there to strengthen me, to give me
mm,
strength during that season of time in my life. That's not my only time that I have witnessed an angel right there by me. There's been plenty of other times, even out of prison and all of that. But I just thank God during that time at 21, God sent an angel. I wrote that in my book. It's in my book as well. There's different times of facing adversity. Not knowing how this is going to turn out. What am I going to do? I almost got into a fight one time, and I just thank God, it didn't happen. If it did, I would have done what I was taught to do. But I just thank God that it didn't. People know that when you're locked up, you get more time added on to the time you already have, and all of that. And so I just thank God. Lots of things happen. I even prayed. I prayed. When they first sent me, I went to Mabel Bassett Prison, y'all. It's in Kickapoo, McLeod, Oklahoma. And I prayed. I prayed. This was when I got you pull chains. So I pulled chains, which means I left the jail and went to the big house on the prison yard. And so I had it was three roommates, and one of them had a bunk on top of me. One of them was a murderer, but I never was afraid of anybody. If they told me their crime, never. It was no reason to be afraid. But I'm saying, during that time, I wanted to get out of there. Um, and God came through. God heard my prayer. I fasted. I didn't go to the cafeteria and eat. I skipped that time. I prayed. I sang to God, just me and God one on one. And I wanted to get out of there. And I prayed I was praying for like the perfect roommate. And so God blessed me with the perfect roommate where no one was, God made it more easier for
mm-hmm.
me because the when I was in a room with the three ladies, I could have snapped. It could have went off on everybody, and that wouldn't have looked good at all. I mean, but I'm trying to hold on to my soul's salvation. I know who I am. I know what God told me in his word, and it's working. It's just not just something that, that I don't know what somebody else is doing, but it's never been something that I'm just saying, because
Mm-hmm.
God shows up and he's not only listening, he's doing something about it all the time. God is a God that does something about it. So I know I found out that God really is real. And so I fasted, I prayed, and then the security guard man came in the cell and called my name for me to move from where I was. I don't know. I think I was there maybe, I don't know if it was like maybe 5 or 6 weeks or something like that. But I prayed. I wanted more peace and all of that. And the stuff that the roommates was talking about, I mean, that would have been me in on those conversations and stuff like that if I was not saved. If my soul was not saved, then everything would have been all good for me. It would have been all good for me. But since I've gotten saved, there's another way that you think, there's another way that you act. And so I wanted a better roommate. So I prayed. So anyway, the security guard came in, called my name and moved me. And so God placed me in another pod with another inmate. And uh, everything worked out smoother. It was smoother, and everything panned out. I would always get on my bunkies, kneel down and pray every time she was out of the room, walking the compound with her girlfriend or whatnot. I would always kneel down and pray in tongues a lot. God would always, because I got filled with the Holy Spirit in jail before I got sentenced to prison, and so I carried that gift of speaking in tongues, speaking in my heavenly language, and I would pray. And a lot of times when I pray and then when I go to sleep, God always comes through in dreams and shows me things to come. One time I had a dream. I was going to school there, and a lady that taught there, she had a son. God showed me a dream. It was a big old diesel driving. And God knows, I don't care who you are, what you've done to me or whatever. I absolutely hate car wrecks. I cannot stand.
Mm.
I have to pray for whoever they are, whatever it is. I don't know. It just hits me like that. I don't understand. So I pray in tongues a lot on my bunky's bed, a lot of times when she's out. And God would come through and show me dreams all the time. And so that when I got the dream the next day when I went to school, the teacher had mentioned her son had been in a wreck. So I got to talking to her and saying that I knew that, God spoke to me through a dream and showed me. And so it was her son. And so it's just a lot of one time it was I had a white Christian friend. She had short hair wouldn't grow. I don't know, my Caucasian friends hair grow quicker than mine, so I don't know, but it was short for a long time. And so she came and asked for prayer, and so shortly after, I don't know, a week or something later, it started to grow, and it didn't grow before. Another time a lady see, she was about that, like a age to be my grandma or something. It was a Caucasian lady. She was a bunkie of mine. She had been in a car wreck and got some damage before she got locked up. And I had prayed and spoken tongues and stuff like that. And I just thank God. She came back shortly after and said the pain was gone. It's just different miracles and different supernatural blessings and stuff that took place. And I have to stay, even though I'm out of prison and I've been out of prison for many years. After even when I get off track, I got to get back on track with God, because I know I've got a great destiny. There's greatness on the inside of me. That's why I don't fit in with just about anybody. Like there's women and people around my age, a little older. I don't fit in. There's something different about me that God he put on the inside of me, and it's to be sacred, to be, because I'm peculiar. The Bible says we're all peculiar, but we are children of God, but not everybody. I don't care what nobody said. I don't argue with nobody no more about this, but everybody don't belong to God. You say, oh, well, Raittia, what are you talking about? You crazy? No, I'm not crazy, because the Bible says if you don't have God's spirit in you, you're none of his. We have to have his spirit in us. So we could say, we're children of God. We're a child of God, child of the Most High God. Okay, we are, but those that don't have his spirit don't belong to him. So anyway, I begin to figure out a lot, have dreams. I'm a seer. God always shows me great and mighty things to come, and so yeah, it's I've been through a lot of adversity and troubles, and even while I was locked up, I wanted to, at the time I was 21 and I turned 22. I wanted to get up in front of everybody and like preach. They have like this. They still have this big old gigantic gymnasium, and that's where ministers and pastors and evangelists and all of that come in to the big old gigantic gymnasium to give out church services. And so, and in the chapel too, at other prisons. So at the time, I wanted to, it just wasn't in me. But what I'm saying is that from salvation at 21, and turning 22 in prison, and years going by, and getting older. um I no longer fear that. The fear left me some years back, and I just thank God for using me in big congregations. Sometimes they're small. I don't turn nothing away. Small platforms, big gigantic platforms. I speak at. So I'm saying, through the years and through the time of me growing in God, um, I am a voice. He told me that I have a voice. I did not want to share my voice. I did not want people to know personal things that's in my book entitled "I Broke Out of Prison." No, I didn't want people to know, but God said, "Tell it."
Mhm.
God said, "Tell your story," and come to find out, it's not all about me. Mhm. It's about helping others. It's about uplifting others and giving people hope and inspiration in life, that no matter prison or whatever we as people go through, storms, trials, tests, um, you can rise up. There's people that I know that's been in and out, in and out, in and out. God bless them. I love them. But you can't break the chains by repeating recidivism. There's no way. So I broke the chains. God gave me the title and gave me of how He wanted my book to look. This came from me. It came from God, from me. My book cover. And God said, don't get fixed up really good. Don't put a nice, beautiful photo on the front page. Just keep it real, just be yourself with people. And so I'm glad that I listened and I followed through with that, because the book is a bestseller and it's an award winner. And everywhere I go, people have, it don't matter who they are, what they look like, people absolutely have no problem with buying this book. They pull their money out their credit card, their wallet, and they pay for it. They want it. They want to know what happened. And so, anyway, through the tests and adversity and difficulties, the trials of life, God just taught me a lot. Even though stuff that I'm facing now, I just have to remain strong. And God, He, a lot of times, God will come through, quicker, for some people. Um, but just know, if someone's listening, and you know that you face a lot, and because God knows that you're strong, you can handle it. So you just have to be patient with God. He's still gonna come through. Everybody is built differently. Everybody is wired differently. Some people cannot. Now, I'm not saying I can take it. Some people cannot not take going to jail and going to prison. And so, what I'm trying to say is that some people would try to kill themselves. Um, no, I never came across that. One time, I don't recall one time of me remembering that I tried to kill myself being locked up. I've tried to kill myself before I got locked up, and that didn't work. Taking pills and all of that. Thank God it didn't work. But yeah, you know what I mean? Some
Mhm.
people cannot. They cannot. I know somebody, and they told me, they said, if they ever got in trouble and went to jail, it's no way. I don't want to say exactly the words that they said, but God knows that they can't go to jail. They can't go to jail. Some, so a lot of tests and trials. Life is hard. Life is not easy just because somebody may be a seer, or a prophetess, or a evangelist, or a speaker, or a preacher. It doesn't go by real smooth. God watches and God tests us a lot. And so I go through a lot. And I just thank God, because the Bible says, greater is He that's in us than he that is in the world. So God builds us up with strength to be able to endure, because in the Bible it also says, those that endure to the end, the same shall be saved. Hello, somebody. Those that endure, which means that the mark of the beast is already out. You cannot accept the. I don't even mean to talk about this. I guess God
You're
is
good.
touching me. The mark of the beast. Some people have already accepted it on their forehead, their right hand. You got to endure. I mean, and some people say, "Well, how am I going to feed my babies? What the heck? How am I going to supply for my family? What? We can't. You got to endure. I don't understand. Um, I don't understand God 100%. But one thing I am very thankful for with God is that even though I don't fully 100% understand God, I'm in on God. Like whatever you
Hmm.
say, like I'm like I kind of remind myself like on Coming to America when she said bark. So I kind of remind myself like that with God. Sometimes I'm a little stubborn. I'm gonna keep it real, but just the majority of the time, it's like whatever God, because God is not gonna lie. And God, He rewards those who diligently seek Him. There's rewards that we get. Some take longer than others, and I know for a fact I'm here. My mom prayed for me, and there's a lot of people on earth that need me. They need to hear my voice. They need to be uplifted, inspired, and encouraged in life to keep on going on. It don't matter what people need me. I've got my Facebook page, y'all, that's tuning in. It's called I Broke Out of Prison. You're welcome to follow, and I inspire a lot of people. And I just thank God humbly. I just thank God, really humble that God has made my story to be featured on pretty much all the news channels here where I'm currently living at right now in Oklahoma. I'm on channel 2, channel 6, channel 8, Fox 23 News. I've been on channel 41 before, radio stations. 105.3, 92.1, the newspaper. And I say that humbly because every time I'm talking to people about my story, I'm actually giving God the glory. What?
Mm,
Out of my story. Come on, somebody.
there you
If you
go.
didn't get that right there, that's right. You just went to the grocery store last week and you didn't say nothing. Next time you go to the grocery store, tell something. Just say one thing. Say a couple of sentences about God, of something that God's done in your life. Because you know what? You're giving God the glory out of your story. You're sharing something good that God have done. And you know what? You're encouraging people. You're giving people great inspiration because there's a lot of bad going on. There's a lot of evil in this world, this wicked and perverse generation, as the Bible say. And so people need you. And so, yeah, I didn't want to. I didn't want to talk like this. I didn't want to do what I'm doing. But years back, God said, "You have a voice, and your voice is going to be heard." And a lot of my naysayers and people that have watched me commit crime, sell drugs, do things with my body for money, played me in, and teen pregnancy at 15, gang affiliation, fighting. A lot of people that I know have saw me from way back then, and until this day, there's people that they envy me, and I just want people to know that the same God that has been raising me up and is still going to continue to raise me up. So you might as well get used to seeing me everywhere. I mean, I say it humbly. God already spoke to me years ago. I already know where this thing is going. And I just thank God because people out there that's being envious of your family members or whatever, even if somebody have not faced prison, but you saw them get their kids taken away and God restored their kids back to the mama. If you saw a daddy get locked up and God made a way for him and you thought he wasn't going to get out of prison and God said, bam, this is my servant. And
Hmm.
so what I'm trying to say is that there's going to be naysayers, there's people that's going to be envious of you, but they're going to continue to see you all around because what you're doing is serious. What you're doing is sincere. And no matter what family members may say, you still love your family members. You love your old ex homeboys and homegirls. You love them all, but you can't hang out with them because God set you apart. That's right. I'm talking to you, you that's tuning in right now. And so people are going to be envious, but God is going to continue to rise. But what I want to say is that you still got to remain humble. and know that, when God gives, God can also take away as well. So,
Mm.
like my dad told me some years back, he said, "Hey, baby, I see you rising up." He said, "Don't you never forget this. You need to always be humble now." And I already knew that, but I thank my dad for telling me that. And so, that's just what I want to say. Somebody that's tuning in, you can come from ashes. God can give you beauty for ashes. God can make you the CEO. You can own your own book business. Writing your true life story, humbly getting it out there. And God, once you get in there with God and be serious. And even though life happens, we make mistakes. But my message is to rise. And so even though things are gonna happen, no matter how hard it gets, do not remain the same, because there's people that I know. Things have happened, like things happen to all of us, and what I'm saying is that some people stayed down. They stayed in their down place. They're feeling sorry for themselves. They're wishing that it never happened. But what I want to tell somebody is that just because a homeless may happen to somebody that's homeless. You might be listening to this right now somewhere in the world, or something devastating. You may have lost someone recently, and you just still can't get over the fact that they're not here no more. They're gone, and I love you with God's love, and I just want to tell you to get out of that place of sorrow, because God said He'll give you joy. Joy comes in the morning. God will give you joy, and I just want to thank God so much. I just forever want to be grateful and thank God so very much, because God truly is the God of second chances. The God that I know, He's the God of miracles, signs, and wonders. And the same thing He did for me and many, many others around the world is the same thing He can do for you. And somebody's tuning in right now. You're thinking about what I'm talking about. I know you're listening. You're thinking about it. And God is saying, just give Him a try. Just give Him a try again. God is speaking to you through me. I'm His messenger. And God is saying to give Him a try. Give Him a try again, because God wants to do something great in your heart. And I feel God is saying right now, He's going to do exceeding and abundantly. I know you heard that before, but if you'll just listen to this word, this is a word to somebody that's tuning in. It's a word to you. And God is saying He's going to do exceeding and abundant. You ain't saw nothing yet. Come on,
Mm.
somebody. You ain't
Mm.
saw nothing yet. God is going to perform. He's going to do miracles, signs, and wonders. He's about to do exceeding and abundantly in your life. Believe God. Trust God. Trust God. Come out of yourself. Take a step of faith. Come out of your own self and tap into God. Even if it's just 5 minutes of prayer and Bible reading, you know, each day, so you can begin to learn about God. And here's another thing. Even though you love your ex friends or ex homeboys, homegirls, or whatever out there, even though you love them, God, you got to separate yourself. God wants you to separate yourself so He can have some time with you. That's what
Mhm.
happened to me when I was out there. I was always a leader. I was just leading in darkness, and now I'm leading in the light. Because the Bible says that a city that is sat up on a hill cannot be hidden. We got to let our light shine. God sees. God is watching. And if you just tap into God and do that, God's going to do it. God said He's going to pay your rent. I'm speaking to somebody. God just said He's going to pay your rent. He's going to pay your rent. So stop. Don't worry about it no more. He's going to pay your rent. It's all, God said it's all good. It's all good. God said it's all good. That's right. Because you know what? With God, God is good. And so with God, all is good. Because the Bible said every good and every perfect gift comes down from heaven, comes down from the Father of lights. That's right. It comes down from heaven. Every good and perfect gift God will give to you. But here's life. There's life. There's the tests and trials and the storms, and you're getting aggravated. Something is not going right. We got to go through it. We got to go through it, but you got to rise up again. You got to remain strong because, only the strong is going to survive. Come on. I heard
Mm,
Tupac say that.
mm.
Only the strong is going to survive. Hello, somebody. Only the strong is going to survive. That's right. I know I've done a lot of talking. I'm going to turn it
No,
back
you
over.
good. You good. You good. I told you at the start of our podcast that I wanted you to speak as God is leading you to share, to pour in as God is leading you, and so I'm letting God lead you accordingly, and which is why I didn't stop you. Because you're dropping some gems, you're dropping some very important things that we need to understand about what it means to go through our storms and our challenges. I love the fact, something that I commonly point out that you pointed out, about how you just can't, while you may go through your storms, and while there may be some emotional, challenges that come from that, the hurt, the anger, the pain, the frustration and all, it's okay as a human being to process those emotions, but you just can't stay stuck there. And you
Hmm.
spoke to that. Don't stay stuck. Don't stay in that rut. You also talked about, when you're walking in your purpose, part of that walk in that purpose requires you to leave some things, leave some people behind. It doesn't always feel good, especially if it's things that you've been accustomed to doing, or people that you've been accustomed to hanging around. But God tells us, that where He's destined for you to go, everybody can't go with you.
That's right.
um that's just the way it is. It's nothing personal. There's
Mhm.
nothing. It's not I think I'm better than you or whatever. It's I'm on assignment, and my
Mhm.
assignment just doesn't include certain places, certain people, certain situations. I have to leave that and embrace some new things that are going to be more in alignment, and more in sync with what God is walking me through. Another thing that jumps out to me in everything that you spoke of, and I can really sum it up in one word, is strength. One of the things that's been evident about your story up to this point is that you've always been strong. You've never, and you professed this, I didn't back down to anything, no matter what the challenge was, no matter who the challenge was. I've always been strong. It was just that in the early going, the strength was misdirected. It was an acting out. It was involving the negative things, the things that were not of God, the things that were not, productive to building you up. And God allowed you to go through that moment because He had to get you to a point to where, not so much to break you to the point of destroying you, but to break you down enough to a point of surrender, if you will, where you said, you know what, okay, I can't do. I'm as strong as I think I am, and as I know I am. This is too much for me to overcome. This is too much for me to bear. And when you opened up, when you finally said, I'm here, God, have your way with me. God, as He promised, did just that. And He said, okay, I'm here. I'm here. I've always been here, but I'm getting ready to pour into you in a way now. And we're going to redirect that strength for my good, for the advancement of my kingdom, for the works that I have for you. You had to go through what you went through, as rough and as tumultuous as that might have been. You had to go through what you went through because of the assignment that you're on today. You wouldn't have been able to minister to people in prison if you hadn't gone through what you've gone through. You wouldn't have been able to be on stages right now, speaking to people, small audiences, big audiences, or whatever, if you hadn't gone through. You wouldn't have been relatable. You wouldn't have been able to connect. People
Yes.
buy your book not because every person that bought your book is somebody that went to prison, but because
Right.
they understand what it means. You express through your story facing adversity and what that feels like, the challenges of that, and you give people hope in telling your story. And I love that you pointed about the importance of even telling your story. That's why everybody has a story to tell. Your story matters. You never know what aspect of your life, even if it was one of the darkest moments in your life, how impactful that can be to somebody else that's going through something. They may not be going through what you went through, but they're going through something, a storm, but they don't know necessarily how to process, how to come through that storm. You are a walking, living example of what that looks like. And it's and a reminder to people that God can make miracles. He can work with anybody under
Mhm.
any. There's nothing that you can do that's so far gone that God can't step in and transform you, because that's exactly what happened with you. He transformed your life and turned you into what He already predestined for you to be from the very beginning. You just didn't know it. And that's the last point that I wanted to make in what you shared here about the significance in us not being okay with not understanding everything about God. He wouldn't be God if we understood everything and could process every single thing that he does. He's God for a reason. But what's important is if you know that he's the one that's given the directive, if you know he's the one that's that's the author of this assignment, even if you don't fully understand all the particulars and details, that's okay. If I know he's the one that set the path forth, then I know first I know I'm gonna win because he's not gonna take me down a path where I'm gonna lose. But I got to step out on faith and obedience to do what I need to do, even if it sounds crazy, if it seems like it's off the wall, off the chart type stuff. If God said it, then I just got to do it, and I just have to accept that if it made sense to him, so by default it makes sense to me. Even if I'm, even though, like I said, even if I'm confused about it or whatever, I'm gonna walk in obedience and in faith and trust. And I know you have your own personal experiences with that as well as I do as well. Anytime that I did it exactly like he told me to, I've never encountered a situation where it didn't go right for me. It was now I can tell you many times where I decided to do it my way and it went sideways, whatever that thing was. But anytime I kept my eye on him and allowed him to lead the way, I always came out on top. So great stuff that you shared there. Very, very powerful. I surely again appreciate your transparency and your honesty with that. Something I wanted to ask you too, when you find yourself facing adversity, I mean you've talked about some very heavy stuff, obviously, but all storms aren't heavy. Sometimes it's just day-to-day life stuff that we deal with, challenges, what have you. What kind of works best for you when you're dealing with adversity and challenging moments? Like what do you like to do that kind of helps you process and keep a clear mind as you're working through whatever that challenging situation is?
Well, besides prayer, I do turn on music.
Mhm.
So music is like a therapy to me. So I have to turn on music and listen to certain songs depending on how I'm feeling and what I'm going through. So for one, music helps me get through. So prayer and music, it pushes me through. Prayer and music, knowing that even though something is trying to come up against me, I'm facing something, something may have went wrong, or whatever the case may be for me personally. I know that I'm going to come out of this. I know that God is watching, He's listening, and then also, He's the God that's just not listening. He's going to do something about it. So I would say what helps me get through music is a therapy to me. So I pray and I'll listen to certain songs that it pushes me through and helps me come out of what I may be going through and facing, in certain seasons of life.
Love that. Love that. Love that. So Ratia, if you had a chance to speak to the younger Ratia, if you could go back to that 21-year-old or even before that, the one that was just angry, hurt, just challenged and struggling with just trying to figure out life and was just kind of all over the place. If you could speak to her, or perhaps somebody that might be listening, that they're kind of in that uncontrollable, out of control state of being right now. They don't know what to do with themselves. They're feeling lost. They're feeling misdirected, misguided. What would be your words of advice to them to remind them that they should not give up, that there is still hope to turn this thing around and be a better version of themselves as God intended?
To someone that's out there listening and you may be going through something and you're young and you just don't see a way out. I'm going to give you a simple word, and it's just to listen. When I was younger, if I had just taken some time out to listen and to really think through, and to help me process through by listening, to my grandparents. My grandpa was always on us. He was always on me, telling me, what I should not be doing. So he helped, a lot. He passed away. It's been like 5 years ago or so. But when I was a young girl, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, my grandpa, because I live with my grandparents. And a lot of times when you're a kid, you're young, and you think that your mom, dad, your grandparents, your auntie, uncle, whoever you're living with, you think they're being mean and they hate you, when all they love you, and we just want to see the best for you. So to anybody that's listening, if you're young or whatever the case may be for you, if you just take time out and try to process through your mind. Just listen. Just sit back and just listen. That's what I would say. If you could just listen and think about it, think about, the help from an older person, your grandpa, your dad, your mom, your big brother, your auntie or something like that. Just listen to what they're saying, because we don't hate you. We don't want the worst for you. We want good to happen. And a lot of times kids, teenagers, y'all youngsters, you're putting yourself in a bad situation that it could end up worser, for you, if you'll just start listening. Just start listening a little bit, just to help you start out with um dealing with life and going through different things. If you'll just listen a little bit more, I'll say that.
Mm,
Just listen a little bit more. Your family love you, and we want to see the best happen. Just listen, because you're young, and you know what? I know you don't want to listen to this, but I'm asking you to listen because you don't know it all. And when I
mm,
was young, I thought I knew it all. Oh, they can't tell me. My grandpa need to shut up. They need to go in there and sit down. I wish they die. I know y'all youngsters think that, because I used to think that, you know. And so we just want the best for you. So, um,
mm.
yeah, we just want the
Love that.
best for you. So just try to listen a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that's a very appropriate word. Listen, whether you're a young person or whether you're, you know, at adult age, and I think the listen part is even more critical when we talk about praying to God. We're so quick to, for those of us, that believe in prayer, and we send those prayers up to God. We'll go and speak one of the most elaborate, beautiful prayers, long, drawn out, and all that good stuff, and God is sitting back and he's listening to your prayer. But at what point are you going to stop and listen to how he's answering that prayer? And sometimes we miss that's the most critical part of the prayer, isn't all the stuff that we say, because he already knows what we want. He was like, but are you going to listen to my response? And if we're not listening to that, then we're not going to know what direction to follow. We're not going to know what steps to take. So to that listen, and that's why I love that you focused in on listen, because that also includes you got to listen to him, because he has all the wisdom, all the guidance, all the direction. He's not going to lead you astray. So if you're going to take the time out to ask him, take that same time out to take in what it is that he has for you, and be prepared to act accordingly, as we've been speaking about throughout this whole podcast episode. So definitely keep that in mind. I love that. Love that. Well, Ratia, it's been awesome having you on the podcast. You have been a blessing, sharing your story so transparently, so authentically. I surely do appreciate it. I know I've been blessed. I know my listeners are going to be blessed as a result of what you've shared. But as is customary here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, before I let you go, we want to take an opportunity to celebrate you, to love on you, to acknowledge you. So if you got anything exciting that's going on right now or coming up down the road that we need to know about, please share with us what you got coming up, or how people can connect with you, or anything of that like. We want to celebrate you and acknowledge you before we let you go.
Oh, absolutely. So thank you so much. Yes, I have something inspirational that's going to be coming out very soon. But as of right now, this is on the rise. It's I broke out of prison. This is the award-winning, best-selling book, and then I have a award-winning documentary film. You just go to YouTube. It's viral. It's rising. It's on the rise right now. People are watching it. It's a short documentary film, and it's called "I Broke Out of Prison." So that's all you got to do, listeners that's tuning in right now. Go to your YouTube channel, type in "I Broke Out of Prison." I have a short, 20-minute documentary film, and it's called "I Broke Out of Prison," and it goes with the book. And I'm on there, and I'm doing a little bit of acting, and it's a great inspirational video of me being transparent with the entire world about my story, and how God can give anybody beauty for ashes, regardless of what you faced in life. You can still become someone vital. You can become someone very important. You can make a difference. You could be a history maker. You could be a world changer. You could become the CEO and boss of your own business. I run a book business. I'm a seer, I'm a speaker, and I just thank God for everything that He's doing in my life. I thank God. He gets the credit, He gets the power, He gets the glory in my life. And for somebody that's listening and you want to be inspired, go to YouTube and type in "I broke out of prison" and check out my short documentary film, which one day I decree and I declare that it will be a movie. And so
There
I
we
just
go.
thank God in advance for what God is about to do in my life to impact and inspire the whole world. And I'm also thankful that God have gotten my story featured on the 700 Club. It's an international platform where millions around the world have saw my story on CBN, the 700 Club, which is an international platform. I'm humbled and very grateful to be on the platform to tell my story. You guys is tuning in. This was not me. God have touched my life. He touched my heart. He's changed my whole life around. And like once, I did not want to tell the world anything like that to this severity, but God said to tell, share my testimony, tell people because it's not about me. It's about exhorting, uplifting, and inspiring lives all over the world. And so I just thank God once again. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to share my true life story and also help those come out of whatever you're facing, whatever you're going through. You're going to come out of that. That's right. On the back of my book, I said, right here on the back of my book, where did I say? Mhm. I said, I prophesy to you today. It's right here in the middle, that God is about to take you into His greatness. So it's right here in the middle of my book. And I'm going to say that to you. I prophesy to you today that God is about to take you into His greatness. So don't be afraid. Don't be shy. Tell your story. Write your book. Take some time out to invest in yourself. Write your book. Sell your books. Impact lives. Don't care what anybody else thinks because you still love them. But at the same time, it's still your true life story. hmm And they can
Love
tell their
that.
own true life story as well. That's right. Again, thank you so much. You can go to
Absolutely.
ibrokeoutofprison.com. That's ibrokeoutofprison.com and check out my website. Thank you so much.
Well, you heard it right here. I broke out of prison. Get your copy of it today. And as she said, everybody has a story. She's put it in a book. It can be inspiring. It can be encouraging. It can be uplifting to you. Everybody has a story. And I understand the value of what that means to write your story and write that book. I've been down that path myself. For those who, of course, have been tuning in with us, hey, we got blessings in the streets. That's what it's all about. It's about your story. Tell your story. Somebody needs to hear your story. This is why we're doing what we're doing here today. We don't know. We may not never see your faces. We may never know your names, but we understand that everybody goes through storms. That's inevitable. It's not a matter of if, but when. But we want to show you, we want to be living, walking examples for you to understand that even in the midst of those storms, God will always make a way if you have that relationship with Him. And I'm here to tell you, if you don't currently have that relationship, today is a mighty fine day to make that happen. And I promise you, and I'm sure Raittia will join in with me in saying this, it'll be the best decision that you will ever make in your life. Game changer forever. Not only will you be able to receive the blessings of life from Him, but He'll position you to be a blessing to so many others, walking in your purpose, living a life and doing things in a way that God has predetermined just specifically for you, gifts that He assigned just for you to operate within and pour into the lives and encouragement of others. Because again, this is what the Blessings in the Streets podcast itself is all about, doing that very same thing, encouraging, uplifting, and pouring into others. So if you've enjoyed our content for today, you've enjoyed our conversations and what we're all about here, please subscribe, please share, please like, please comment. We would appreciate your support. Because this is what it's all about here. And so with that said, remember, here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, this is the place where your story is your glory, where your relationships are relevant and your journey is your joy. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, you keep fighting that good fight. You keep enduring, withstanding those hits of life. But understand that you can't do it by yourself. God has to be at the head of it all. You stay connected with him. You stay in his presence. You stay in his word. You allow him to be the eyes and ears to navigate you through those storms of life. And again, you will not go wrong. You will not go astray. He has not forgotten you. He has not left you isolated and by yourself in the midst of those storms. He's there all the way through it all. Even through in the most darkest and roughest patches of life, there is a purpose in that pain. But trust and believe when you come through it and get up out of that situation, whoa, the blessings that are in store for you and the blessings that you're going to be able to bestow on other people is just countless and just remarkable and magnificent and in ways that just, again, words cannot, accurately express. So until next time, you take care of yourselves. I look forward to seeing you again. I appreciate you tuning in. Have yourselves a great rest of your evening.